Africa, the inner workings of the Syrian government, a secret Australian gag order meant to hide a huge bribery scandal that involved the central bank and Australian political leaders. And no one has gone to prison for those things, yet Julian Assange has for revealing them. He and WikiLeaks revealed the secretive Bilderberg Group meeting reports, which is a group of incredibly powerful world leaders that get together and they drink the blood of the non-believers. I might have made up that last part. The Barclays Bank tax avoidance scheme that allowed Barclays to steal £1 billion a year. No one went to prison for that, yet Julian Assange has for revealing it. The Afghan war diaries, tens of thousands of pages revealing American war crimes in Afghanistan. And people have not gone to prison for that, yet Julian Assange has for revealing it. Hundreds of thousands of State Department, U.S. State Department cables that revealed how our secretive government works, how it pressures other governments around the world to bend to its will. It revealed that Hillary Clinton ordered spying on allied governments. It revealed that Arab nations had pressured the U.S. to attack Iran, and so much more. We deserve to know these things as the people of this country. We deserve to know what our government is doing in our name. And no one is going to prison for all of these crimes, yet Julian Assange has for revealing them. The Stratford emails, millions of emails revealing private security company Stratford spied on journalists and activists, and no one's gone to prison for that, yet Julian Assange and Jeremy Hammond did for revealing them. The trade deals, TPP, TTIP, and TISA, some of the largest corporate power grabs ever created, ceding national sovereignty to powerful corporations around the world. And we hardly knew what was in those documents. Yet, WikiLeaks was able to publish some of what was in those, which allowed activists to have the knowledge and the proof in order to stand up against those trade deals. And TPP, we succeeded in stopping America from signing on to that. The impacts of what WikiLeaks and Assange have done is incredibly powerful. The ripples will go on for generations. And now Biden will probably re-sign on to the TPP. But still, you got 4 more years of not being part of a corporate tribunal that decides how our country works. The DNC emails that revealed corruption, manipulation, and coercion with the media to rig the 2016 primaries. No one went to prison for that, yet Julian Assange is in prison for revealing them. And finally, I'll end on the CIA's Vault 7. Showed the world some of the inner workings of CIA, how it is that they hack into foreign governments, how it is that they're capable of hacking into your television, your smart TV, even when it's not on, and listening to you in your own home. They should be in prison for that kind of breach of privacy. But instead, Julian Assange is for revealing it. You could go on and on. This is just a small sampling of what Assange and WikiLeaks have managed to do, and these are things we should know. These are things we, as the people of this country, and the people in other countries should know, that is objectively, the government is supposed to be working for you. That's the idea. We know that's not how that works, but it's how it's supposed to work. And so Assange should be free, he should be heralded, he should be celebrated, he should not be in prison being tortured, as he has been for so many years. We desperately need more Julian Assanges. We desperately need more people standing up and whistleblowers revealing the truth behind our governments. That's what we need. And that's part of the reason why he needs to be tortured by the ruling elite, is because they fear others will stand up like him. He set an amazing example of courage to reveal these things. And that is what's so dangerous. And so that is why, obviously, the UK should not extradite him. He should be free. He should be able to tour the world, giving speeches, and continue his work of journalism. And you guys are incredible for coming out and supporting that and demanding that. What do we want? When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Free Assange.
When do we want it?
Now.
Thank you guys, and thank you, Action for Assange.
Yeah. Can you test this out? Can you open the stream on your phone?
Jackson Hinkle, step forward, young man. Jackson,
Check.
get on over here.
I'm getting on over.
Thank you very much for...
Hello, checking mic. I don't know if it works.
What do we want? When do we want? What do we want? When do we want? The single biggest thing that has caused my political radicalization in my life has been the work of Julian Assange. I'm a YouTuber. I have an independent news channel that I started not too long ago. My name is Jackson Hinkle, and I live in California. And I came all the way out here in part because of the Medicare for All protests that are happening, but also because I desperately wanted to be here with all of you. And I wanted to stand up for Julian Assange. Because the fact of the matter is there are no words there's no words that can explain what this man has done for press freedoms and for justice around this planet. And the way that he has been treated is an abomination, right? The torture. You have Niles Melcher, who's a UN special reporter, who has gone on record, put his career on the line multiple times to discuss the fact that what is happening to Julian Assange right now is a gross, disgusting act of torture, right? He's being held in solitary confinement for virtually every hour of the day. He's not allowed to go out and see the sunlight, and they're purposefully putting COVID-infested patients in the Belmarsh prison, which is the British equivalent of Guantanamo Bay, right next to him in that prison to try and kill him, right? They tried and killed him multiple times already. Now that they have him at Belmarsh, they're trying again. What's happening to Julian Assange is one of the biggest abominations that we have witnessed in modern global history. This is the biggest attack on press freedom, on freedom of speech, on publishing rights that we have ever seen. And it blows my mind that we are the only people here today. And it's in large part due to exactly what Niko was talking about, the fact that the mainstream media, who used to once celebrate this man, talk about the fact that he deserves Nobel Peace Prizes, he deserves medals of honor, now are the same people saying that he is a Russian asset. It also happens to be the same people that say Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset, the same people that say independent journalists like myself and many of the people here today are Russian assets. Right? It's insane. It's insane. Reading the Iraq war logs was the single biggest moment of political radicalization I've ever had in my life. Obviously, you were first radicalized to get into politics and become more left. I think we can all agree we've had those moments. But reading the Iraq war logs, looking at each instance of blatant acts of inhumanity, of violations of international war crimes, shook me to my core, right? It shook me to my core. And if it wasn't for Julian Assange, you bet your ass that, my white ass living in Orange County, California, never would have heard those stories, never would have heard about the disgusting acts of violence that were committed against civilians in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Niger, in Syria, in Libya, in Lebanon, in all across the world, right? It's happening all across the world still today. Unfortunately, Julian isn't there to report on what's happening right now. He's not there to report, but WikiLeaks is still in the midst of this extradition trial, if you can even call it that, this sham of trial, this kangaroo court hearing. They're still trying to do the work that needs to be done right now. So I want to thank all of you for being here today, for standing up for Julian Assange and for press freedoms. Regardless of what happens tomorrow, the fight does not end. The fight does not end. Whoever decides that they want to run for president in 2024 better have free fucking Assange on their website. Front and center. Or else they're not getting my vote. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Green Party candidate. I don't care if you're a People's Party candidate. Whoever is running for president better have free Assange on their platform. And we should demand that of all of our Congress people and senators who are representing us, right? If you are ever going to lobby a senator for a single issue, make sure you bring up free Assange while you're there. If you're there campaigning about environmental rights, if you're there campaigning about, Wall Street regulation or what have you, bring up free Assange. Mention his name. Make sure that people hear his name. Because I guarantee you, when he's rotting away in a U.S. prison, the mainstream media won't be saying his name. The leading progressive politicians won't be saying his name. AOC in a fucking interview with The Intercept the other day said, I don't know about freeing Julian Assange. I don't know about a pardon for Julian Assange. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. That's what your progressive shining light AOC had to say about Julian Assange. She said, Edward Snowden, there's an argument to be made there. Julian Assange, I don't know. Well, I know, all of you know the work that this man has done and that he will continue to be able to do if he is free. And we need him free now more than ever, because he is the one who is doing the acts of justice. He's not the one committing crimes. The people committing crimes are the ones who are locking him up. So thank you all for being here today. And one more time, let's say, free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange!
It's disgusting what's going on with Julian Assange. It's just disgusting. What did he do? He told the American people the truth. And Lee talked about a lot of the other stuff that a lot of people don't know and what he exposed. But I think we all saw the video of the helicopter and what it did to all those journalists who got gunned down. And I think every high school student should have to watch that video and see the horrific bloodshed that has come from war. And all Julian Assange did was tell the truth. Not like the mainstream media, not like CNN, and all they do is give you propaganda every single day. Julian Assange started WikiLeaks. He has never had to retract one story, ladies and gentlemen, not one story. He has a 100% accuracy rating. And what do? They let him sit there and rot. Right now in Belmarsh, they're trying to kill him. He needs help. He needs to be out there. And just think about this. Julian Assange has either been in hiding or in prison for over 10 years. Over a decade. Can you imagine what it's like to not be able to go outside, breathe the fresh air, not hold your children, not tell them you love them? But that's what Julian Assange is facing. And we need to be his voices. All the independent media you see here today, we're under attack. Every day we get throttled on YouTube. Every day they demonetize us. They take us down. Why? Because they were able to do it to Julian Assange. They're able to do it to anybody. So we got to come together, ladies and gentlemen. Get on Action Assange. Help them out. Watch their vigils. And let's free Assange. What do we want? When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Free Assange! When do we want it? Now! Let's give it up to Action for Assange for putting this together. This is awesome.
Hey, thanks everybody for coming out. My name is Steve Boykin and I'm one of the organizers of the event here today. 175 years. 175 years under the Espionage Act for an Australian citizen with an outlet registered in Iceland. And this makes sense because... does this make sense to anybody?
No!
Anybody?
No!
The United States is claiming international jurisdiction over the press. Raise your hand if you're part of the press. Part of the press, part of the... Everybody raise your fucking hand. The United States is claiming that if you, a private citizen, receive classified material, you can be prosecuted under the Espionage Act of 1917. This is unprecedented. This is brand new in this indictment against Julian Assange. It is brand new in this indictment against Julian Assange that a journalist and publisher, period, is being charged under the Espionage Act, let alone a foreign journalist and publisher charged under the Espionage Act. The United States government is claiming that sharing classified material is an offense that they can prosecute private citizens under the Espionage Act. Raise your hand if you've ever shared a link that contained classified material. The United States government cannot prosecute each and every one of you. My God! Like, can you imagine the Justice Department trying to prosecute every American citizen, every citizen on the globe? No. So they're going to do what they do with the Espionage Act every single time, which is use it as a political weapon to target people that they deem dangerous. So raise your hand if you think you're dangerous. I believe you're dangerous too. For all of the right reasons. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. Does anybody else want to get in on this? Ian Schlackman.
Who's Ian Schlackman?
Where's Ian Schlackman? I know you have something to say, brother. I know you do. I know you do.
Yeah. I'm actually, I'm a little rusty. I haven't given a speech in public in like, I don't know, it feels like years with this coronavirus thing. But my mentor, the legendary Reverend Andy Chambers, woo! Black Panther, who's still fighting in Douglas Home. Gotcha. The legendary Black Panther still fighting the establishment in Baltimore City every single day. And I asked her what she thought before I came here today. She wasn't able to come. And she said every single day people are freezing in prisons all throughout Maryland, all throughout America, all throughout the world. And she doesn't see any difference between Julian Assange and her sons and daughters freezing their asses off in the prisons right here in Maryland. They get no heat, they get no reprieve, they don't get to see their loved ones. It's torture. The man is being tortured to death. The man is being tortured to death. And this kind of treatment happens every single day to those in the prison industrial system right here in the USA. But what's more scary than that is happening right now. And that is that as of tomorrow, there is the chance that the U.S. will have an internationally recognized right to pick you up wherever you are on this planet just because they don't like what you're saying, just because they don't like what you're publishing, just because you're publishing the truth. And when that international right happens, every single country is going to be fighting for that right back at them. You're going to see war after war started over who can abduct what journalists over what time, all throughout the damn U.S., all throughout the damn country, all throughout the damn world. We are opening the Pandora's box here, where we do not respect the rights of journalists. Last I checked, Julian Assange is not an American citizen. He's not subject to American law. Last I checked, he had the freedom of speech, even if he goddamn was. And I'm outraged by this. I'm outraged by the international pressure that has been so lacking. And I am damn outraged by the fact that this is not in the mainstream news of America. We should be furious at the mainstream news. This is a precedent that we will never get back. never get that. The U.S. wants to be the world policeman, and that is a step far too far when it comes to press freedom. We've got to fight. We've got to keep fighting. But we've got to make sure that this kind of thing, look folks, right here, all of you all are leaders in this movement, whether you want to be or not. Whether you just want to be covering it, whether you just want to be someone on Twitter, whether you want to be someone online, you're more than that. You're a leader in this movement. You're standing up. You're courageous when others are falling down. You're speaking truth to power when others are staying hidden and they don't want to speak up about what's going on right now. Use your leadership. Use your newfound powers of fighting for this movement to go further than ever before and to take us back home with you and to tell every single person in your community that this is not okay. This is not acceptable. What's going on with Julian Assange is just the first step in the war on press freedom. The war that will kill us and will kill this country. Now imagine if we literally didn't know about what happened that day in Iraq. Imagine if we didn't know about the people that had died. Imagine if that wasn't exposed. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this is killing us. This is literally going to kill people. We have to be sure to keep the pressure up no matter what happens tomorrow. Keep the pressure going. Keep the campaign going. Keep on fighting. Justice anywhere is injustice everywhere. Thank you. I want to say thank you to Action for Assange. Let's hear for Action for Assange.
Yeah.
This is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. When they said they were doing this in January, I said, good luck. I can't believe you're coming to D.C. in January. And look at all you people here from all over the world. Who's not from D.C.? Raise your hand. Who's not from D.C.? This is fucking amazing. This is fucking amazing. I'm in awe. Thank you all.
Give it up for Ian Schlossman!
Here's the mic.
It's like my boss was holding my drink. That's hilarious. Fantastic. Not even my birthday. So we are here in January because District Judge Vanessa Baratzer, or as we've been calling her, the concierge to the U.S. State Department, reads the decision in Julian Assange's extraordinary rendition hearing tomorrow. We've also been calling it an extraordinary rendition hearing because a gentleman named Victor Dadaj told us to stop using the language of empire, and you really can't call this an extradition. There's nothing legal about any of this case. I don't know if you guys know the extent to which Julian Assange's basic human, civil, and legal rights have been violated throughout this entire process. In 2017, the guy who lives in that house, Mike Pence, and a guy named Richard Grenell, and Donald Trump, and Sheldon Adelson got together and they drafted a Spanish security firm called UC Global, the president of which, David Morales, is now in serious legal trouble in Spain. UC Global was tasked with a brand new job alongside of providing security to the Ecuadorian embassy. They were tasked with upgrading the video and audio surveillance equipment on Julian Assange with a special interest in all of his meetings with his attorneys. From 2017 on, Julian Assange hasn't had a shred of lawyer-client confidentiality. This is something that's actually come out in a Spanish court, but it also came out in court in September in the UK. This is something that Judge Vanessa Baratzer is well aware of. There were 3 different witnesses from UC Global who testified during the last week of Julian's hearing. In what world does a torture victim who doesn't live in the country that he's being extradited to, or have an outlet in the country that he's being extradited to, in what world does a judge sit there and go, okay, so there's violation upon violation upon violation upon violation upon violation of this man's rights and this man's liberties. What does my laptop say? Okay, well, I'm just going to read whatever the laptop says because this isn't, that was John Pilger. John Pilger was right. This isn't due process, it's due revenge. The fact that collateral murder wasn't part of the hearing at all, not because it exposed the rules of engagement, which it did, but everybody already knew what they were anyway, because the video had been out for a decade, because it was prima facie evidence of U.S. war crimes. It wasn't allowed in court. The fact that United States war crimes were addressed at all in a British courtroom is fascinating, because if Julian Assange gets brought to the United States, no one is going to hear about that in court. None of you are going to be able to hear about any of this in court. You're not going to be able to show up. It's a national security case. They're not going to let a single human being that isn't a member of the jury, the bailiff, or the judge in that courtroom. Julian Assange would be tried in the dark. And I mean that quite literally, because they black out the windows in the courtroom. National security cases take place in a vacuum. Julian Assange's case is already taking place in a giant press vacuum. Once again, Reporters Without Borders and other NGO observing groups have been shut out of monitoring Julian's hearing. Back in September, over 40 different groups were locked out of the Old Bailey in order to observe the world's biggest press freedom trial in our lifetimes.
Message to the media, that's what they want.
Absolutely, absolutely. Daniel Ellsberg talked about the chilling effect that this is going to have on journalists. It's already happened. I see a handful of people from the independent media out here. I see none of the people who sit at indie media's cool kids table. I mean, I realize it's not great weather, but you know, it is your future we're out here trying to protect. I certainly don't see anybody with a giant multi-million-dollar contract out here, even though it's their jobs that I guess we're sort of trying to protect, but fuck those guys, really. Fuck every last bit of those guys. I don't know. Let's yell at the British Embassy for a little bit. There's only one decision! No extradition! There's only one decision!
No extradition!
There's only one decision!
No extradition!
Free! Free! Julian Assange!
Free! Julian Assange!
Free! Julian Assange!
Free! Julian Assange!
There's only one decision!
No extradition!
There's only one decision!
No extradition!
We're coming right back.
What's up? I love what I'm seeing.
Oh no, we can go right now. Yeah, if you want to go.
This is what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like!
This is what democracy looks like!
That is what imperialism 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 looks like!
As everybody come here and talk about it, what happens to Assange at home? We are Julian Assange. We're all the rest. We all have a phone. There afraid of us. The mainstream media is not going to talk about this. Where the fuck are they? Where the? I said this yesterday about forced vote. Where the fuck is the home of the progressive? Where the fuck are they? They're not even talking about this.
Do what?
Because by definition,
Yeah.
they are corporate news. They are mainstream media. They're afraid to talk about this. But we're not afraid to talk about this. We're all out here. We're all here for Assange.
I'll have to add that
Doctors
to
from
I take
across
screenshots
the world.
Keep them all.
Over 200 doctors signed a letter that said what they're doing to Assange is inhumane, that he needs to be freed now. Free Assange now!
Free Assange now!
Free Assange now!
Free Assange now!
This is what democracy looks like!
This is what democracy looks like!
That is what imperialism looks like!
That is what imperialism looks like!
Free Assange!
I would just again like to thank everybody for turning out. We're still going to be here a while. No one's going anywhere. Our WikiLeaks van is making one more circle around the block. They are going to be with us for a while. But we want to get a group picture with everybody if you're willing to hop in for one when it comes around. Feel free to blow your whistles. Eventually we're going to start walking around the embassy chanting in a little bit after the van picture. We have wristbands, we have buttons, we have flyers in there. Please help yourself to any of our counter propaganda. I appreciate your help. Thank you guys for turning out today.
So I'm Pasta. Nice to meet you. That's Johnny. This is the Convo Couch. That's Douglas.
Hey, can everybody come line up over here for the group photo when the van pulls through? We're there. Right here along the curb, basically from the telephone pole to wherever. Tall people in the back, short people in front.
What do you want me to do with this thing, man?
Oh, wait.
Well, I just asked him and he said he didn't know either. And then he walked away. So. What? What am I supposed to do with this? Do you want it cut or what? Yeah.
Good luck to us all.
I love you, Sleepy. Yeah, Steve says good luck to us all. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
We got some sharp people moving to the front.
Bye, Slow News Day fam.
The van should be back any minute.
Andrew, you gotta get in here.
I will. Okay, whose phone is this?
That's fine.
Okay, there you go.
Risky, come on.
Come on.
That is
Wait, so we're waiting for the truck?
We are. But
One, two, three.
we're waiting for the truck for the picture, I'm sorry. We lined up a little bit. But there's only one decision! There's only one decision! This is a new one, so follow me here. Donald Trump, you know what to do! Julian Assange told us the truth! Donald Trump, you know what to do! Julian Assange told us the truth! Donald Trump, you know what to do! Julian Assange told us the truth! here any minute, I promise you. Any second now.
You better start another chant. You got
Right?
another new one?
No jokes.
I'm not good at jokes. They're terrible. I got some Sarah Palin ones.
Oh, we love Sarah Palin.
No.
Tina, Jazz, Andrew, Dare.
No.
Yes.
No.
You
No.
promised me.
No. Oh, here, buddy. Would you like to talk to the van shelter?
Sure. I'm just going to give a quick plug online for my news source.
Greetings, everyone. I'd like to ask for two favors. My name is Peter Bolton. I am a former candidate for the Green Party here in DC, and I'm also a reporter with the UK's leading independent online news source, The Canary. First of all, I'd like you to all consider whether you want to bother with the futile task of trying to reform the Democratic Party and moving it to the left. We've already heard that AOC, the so-called darling of the left, has failed to stand up for Julian Assange. And I would like you to instead consider joining your local affiliate of the Green Party of the United States. Second of all, I'd like you to consider following The Canary on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, or if you can afford it, please become a sponsor. We have been reporting on Julian Assange's case since October 2015 and have published over 100 articles. I have nothing more to say about Julian Assange because it's already been said other than two things. First of all, he is not a criminal. He's not even a whistleblower. He is a journalist, just like me and just like many of you. The second thing I know is that the United States government and the United Kingdom government have absolutely zero credibility when it comes to passing judgment on Julian Assange or any other journalist or any other nation for that matter. The UK and the US are the two leading rogue states in the world, and if there are any journalists, other journalists amongst you, I would like you to make an effort to make that case every time you get in front of your computer and write an article. Thank you so much for showing up, and thank you to the other speakers.
Are you sure this truck's coming? I think he got pulled over.
Alright, so there's the protest. It's about like 30 to 40 people here.
There's only one decision! There's only one decision! No extradition! So while we wait for the van, I'm going to have us marching down this way. We're going to do some chanting, some yelling. Just so you guys know the layout, the British Embassy goes all the way down. There's 3 more buildings, and then the New Zealand Embassy. For those of you who don't know, New Zealand's part of the spy alliance that's been used against the U.S. people called the Five Eyes. So we're just going to go all the way down, because at the very end's a naval intelligence base. So we'll chant all the way down here, we'll come marching back, we'll go out front, and hopefully by then the van will have met up with us.
Sounds good.
No extradition! You got the microphone?
No, I thought you had it.
What?
You want to take the third one?
I am not walking. My leg is fucking.
This is the background, so you got it right there. Oh,
Well,
you did an interview with my partner when we first started off about 2 years ago in Berg Diamond. Fiorella? Yeah. Remember that? Yeah. And we're like fans to Graham, so you know, speak a lot. You come down to Rock? What? Graham? Like, we break bread a lot. Like Graham, Ron. I lived with Ron. He was my roommate for a while.
You live with Ron?
Yeah. I lived with comedians and stand-ups.
Someone else who lived, I think lived with Ron, became my regular opener, Chris Mohan, the comedian.
I was in Florida not too long ago for my family though, but I was from Jimmy Shooter. One of my best friends is Brett Ernst. I grew up with Brett Ernst. Nice.
Yeah, me and Graham are doing a podcast.
Oh, I know. And you're coming to Rokfin.
Yeah.
Are you on yet or no?
Yeah,
so you're earning Ray, and it's increasing right now.
Yeah,
and it has a super chat thing now, so they give you the price of Ray for your super chats when you stream live, and it turns it into Ray.
Really?
Yeah. It's called Super Ray. This morning was $2.65. It was 14 cents a year ago. So literally, we had like about 10,000 Ray in the bank. Now it's worth like 20-something thousand, 26,000. It just shot up, yeah. So we're going to talk about
check. Hello, do you guys hear me? Do you hear me? Check. Please tell me if you hear me.
We'll agree on one when we vote.
Tell me if you hear me.
But I do appreciate the fact that you haven't been mocking and minimizing the. I know you don't believe that I do strongly believe in it. But some people have been mocking and minimizing it. I think you've been just made. This is my opinion. I watched the show on
it. Let me know.
Yeah, I don't spend a lot of time on it
still,
because
higher
I think that our election system is so fucked that I'm not out to trash people who think it's fucked. But
well, I appreciate it.
Still lower?
You haven't been a dick about it. Me and Jordan got into it pretty hard the other day. So.
Jordan.
Yeah. We got into it, but I still respect him. I'm glad he's out here. I'm close with his camera guy and shit.
Check. Hello. Can you guys hear me? Something wrong with the mic. Anyways, we'll just go off of this.
Okay.
This still sounds good.
Just come get a tight shot. I'll hold the microphone for aesthetics.
Okay, fine.
You know what I'm saying? All right. Let me know when we're ready to roll.
Rolling.
Welcome back to the Convo Couch here at the Free Julian Assange Vigil. You know this guy over here. Redacted tonight. Old school, got thrown out Fox. That's the first time I saw you had the short hair. And now you've just been rocking it ever since. I love to watch your show. You talk about the oligarchs. You talk about imperialism. You talk about all this stuff that's juicy. But you're also for force to vote. Could you tell us your thoughts on why you're standing for force to vote in that movement?
Yeah, because I mean, it's so ridiculous that we don't have health care in this country. The only industrialized country without it, and it's a crime against humanity. People are dying and having their lives destroyed on a regular basis. The number one cause of bankruptcy. Most people know all the reasons we need it. So really, it just comes down to: are you going to stand up right now and demand it? Or are you going to say, no, we'll wait till the time is right. We're working on some committee appointments. It's like, that doesn't inspire anyone. That doesn't look like you're standing up for anyone. And so that's why I'm for forcing it now. That doesn't mean that I necessarily think that people who believe it now is not the time are awful human beings, but I'm going to loudly and angrily demand that we have Medicare for all right now, and that's where I stand on it.
All right, but when you're saying angrily and upset, there's been a lot of pushback from some of the progressives and saying, well, that's the problem. Then you got Jimmy Dore, his rhetoric, and all these other guys, they get really mad. What do you say to those people that, hey, man, they're trying to, just push aside force to vote because of the language or the rhetoric?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody says, "Oh no, that's wrong because I don't like the tone of Jimmy Dore," or "you don't like my tone," then they have no argument. They're admitting they have no argument. Because if you don't like someone's tone, then don't talk about their tone. Talk about the issue. But it seems to me that most of the arguments about the issue have fallen flat. So now they're like, well, tone police.
Yeah.
So I think the tone thing is just it's a red herring to because they have no debate. So it's like, well, he yelled something.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to work? Do you think we're going to actually get the Democrats, the progressives, to force this vote and get it on the floor?
No.
You don't?
I have seen no sign that the so-called progressives are going to actually suddenly flip right now and force the vote. I think if they were going to, they would have shown signs that they were receptive to that argument, but I haven't seen that.
Let's talk about Assange, because even though you're a funny guy, you're a very educated guy. Every time I watch your show, I seem to learn something. You talked today about, it's not only about the helicopter firing, it's all these other things, and you read off a list of things. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the stuff that Julian Assange has exposed?
Yeah, there's a long list. People think it's about the collateral murder video, which is horrific, and obviously people need to know about that, but there's so much more. They also think that it's only about America, and there are some incredible and important things people need to know that's been revealed about America. The Afghan war logs, the Iraq war logs, tens of thousands of documents detailing our war crimes. Those need to be known. But it's other countries as well, which is why he's hated universally by so many countries. He revealed that Russia was spying on their citizens. He revealed in Australia they had a gag order over immense corruption. He revealed what went on with Barclays Bank stealing £1 billion a year, which of course they're heavily connected in the UK. He's revealed so much stuff about Chinese dissidents, the Peru oil scandal. So WikiLeaks has revealed stuff about countries around the world, and that's why he is like universally hated by the ruling elite in these countries, because he stands for truth. He believes truth can create peace in the way lies have created war, and I think that's why he should be held up as a hero. And a lot of people don't know these things. They think, oh, he just hated America, and so he published stuff about America. The other thing that people need to keep remembering is that everything WikiLeaks has ever published has been proven true. Never once has it been false. You compare that to the record of CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. They can't go 30 seconds without reporting something provably false. So to me, he is more of a journalist than any of our so-called journalists.
You said statues they should put up for this man, and I agree. Do you think tomorrow we're going to get some good news and they're not going to extradite him?
I think it's unlikely that they won't extradite him, or this judge won't side with extradition, because she is she got to that position by being basically a stooge of the British U.S. Empire, and so then it'll go through the appeals court, which will still lock him up for more years, which is ugly. But I mean, I'd love to hope otherwise. But I think that the call for his freedom needs to become so immense and so aggressive that they look horrible even continuing to torture him, which, many people have known that for a while, but it needs to become really universally known. Of course, there is this tiny little glimmer of hope that Trump, in order to exact revenge on all of the people he hates, pardons Assange in the final days, which would be incredible. I think Trump, unfortunately, would be doing it for the wrong reasons, but I'm all for it. And unfortunately, he's surrounded by people like Pompeo, who would believe Assange should be drone bombed and stuff. So, will he take the advice of Pompeo, or will he listen to all the people demanding the freedom of Assange?
Let's talk about the elections, because I heard you talk about the way the primaries have been cheated against Bernie Sanders. My first question for you is this, and maybe you can just help me understand it. How is it that we can think that the Democratic Party would cheat the primaries, but they wouldn't cheat the general?
It's easy. The Democratic primary system is run by the Democratic mechanism. It is completely run by them. No one is overseeing anything. Whereas state mechanisms are not just run by the Democrats. They are run by both parties. Both parties are very prevalent in them. That doesn't mean that one party or the other in various states doesn't have a little more power, but it's not just run by one party. So that's part of it. The other thing is that I'd say 90% of the rigging of the primaries against Bernie Sanders that I talked about had to do with rigging in the media, closing polling places, purging people from the voter rolls, which was they were found guilty in court in New York of purging 200,000 likely Bernie voters. So those things are clearly provable and have been proven. And so that's the difference.
I mean, but in the areas of concern or question, those were democratically controlled areas. And don't you think, though, it's because you talk about the establishment working together, Republicans and Democrats.
The areas have to be approved by the states. It's not just because it's a Democratic area doesn't mean that a Democrat just says, oh, yeah, we won.
No, I hear you. I'm just saying those areas of questions were run by Democrats. And we did see situations where they kicked Republicans out of the room, which is illegal because they're supposed to be there to scrutinize those ballots, and they weren't allowed in the room. So that's why I kind of question those situations and stuff and think, how can it not be logical to think, hey, if they admitted to cheating in the Jared Beck case in Florida and said they can go to the back room and pick whoever they want, why wouldn't they cheat the general? I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, because the Beck case is a perfect example. It is what they claimed in that court case was that the Democratic Party has the ruling elite of the party has the right to go in a back room and pick their nominee for president.
Yes.
That was their argument. But they don't have the right or the possibility to go in a back room and pick the winner of the presidency. Yeah. So to me, that's a very clear difference.
I hear you. Yeah.
That's a very clear difference. The other thing was I actually believe that if you look at the hundreds of thousands of purge voters, mostly people of color, Greg Palast has done wonderful work on this. This is a journalist who's been, widely respected, is rarely called into question, and he's the one who revealed election tampering in other elections very clearly. And in Georgia, you have hundreds of thousands that were purged. These are mostly people of color. People of color mostly voted Democratic. So it's not like I'm running around because I love, Biden or love the Democrats.
Yeah.
But if those people had their votes counted, which they should have, you'd have actually hundreds of thousands of more votes for Biden, probably, in a lot of these areas.
I disagree in a little bit because I think that Donald Trump is not the normal type of president, and he wanted to show that he can get more black and brown votes than anybody else, and he did.
But they still broke heavily for Biden. He got more than past Republicans.
Yeah. I mean that's just the argument there. And I like Greg Palast. I just happen to disagree with him in this particular situation. What about the anomalies? So the mathematical anomalies, where 138,000 votes come in the middle of the night when they shut down the facility, kick everybody out. We have all these statisticians, these mathematicians that say, hey, something's wrong here. At the very least, isn't that enough to merit a forensic audit so the people out there can be assured that this election was fair?
I'm for all kinds of audits. Every audit that can be done, I think, should be done. I think all audits should be publicly viewable. I haven't seen anyone I respect say that, oh yeah, we turned out the lights and suddenly the vote count changed. What happened, which I said would happen months in advance, was that Trump was clearly, through the USPS, which the Democrats also gutted. I agree with that in 2006. I talked a lot about that.
Yep.
But
saw that episode.
But Trump wanted to, further undermine the USPS so that they couldn't count the ballots. And so you had because of a pandemic, you had a larger amount voting via mail than ever before. So he knew that the night of would go towards Trump, and then as those mail-in ballots all get counted, it's going to slowly trickle towards Biden. To me, it was foreseeable, and I ended up being right about almost all of it. And so I don't think it wasn't a surprise to me.
Okay. Well, I still disagree because I know a lot of those mail-in ballots came in a lot earlier than a lot of people think. They were counting them throughout the night, and that's where we do have a little bit of a disagreement.
Well, some states they're not even allowed to begin counting them.
That's Pennsylvania. That was Pennsylvania for sure and stuff. But in Wisconsin, Michigan, and in Wisconsin, they actually had more Republicans request mail-in ballots than Democrats. So, I mean, despite, the fact that we had this mail-in situation where they shotgun out, which I think is wrong anyways, I think that's where we have a little bit of a disagreement there. But I do appreciate you coming and talking about this because a lot of people don't want to talk about this. You haven't mocked it, you haven't minimized it.
Well, also, I think the wrong way to talk about it is to say, oh, no, our election systems are perfect, there's never been any fraud, there's never any rigging. It's like, no, they're not perfect at all. A large Harvard study found they're the worst in the Western world.
Yeah.
So if anyone who comes at you with, oh no, this is the perfect election system, they're disingenuous from the start.
Yeah. So you also talk, though, and this is important, though, you're for any forensic audit, you're for any real third party coming in, maybe taking a look at what's going on. The fact that the opposition and the Democrats have denied any type of real forensic audit, isn't that kind of suspicious to say, hey man, what are they hiding if they won't let us come in there and look at our data?
I don't know what audits have been denied. I know there's been a lot of recounts and looking at what came in.
But you're for it, is what you're saying. Any type of third-party audit can come on in and take a look at it. Well, I'm glad we can agree on that. Lee, I love your show, and I hope you keep rocking it. I'm looking forward to seeing you and Graham do some stuff. And anytime you want to come on the Convo Couch, please do, brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, that's it.
Where self-styled socialists like AOC say that there are concerns around Julian Assange and will not challenge Nancy Pelosi, a straight-up warmonger. So this is just about people power. This is pure people power today, and these are incredible numbers considering the situation that we're in. I hadn't prepared any remarks. I wasn't really prepared to speak, but one of the things that upsets me the most today is that this is the anniversary of the state murder of Qasem Soleimani.
Yes.
Someone who not only defended his country, but defended the Middle East against one of the most vicious, fascistic forces in the world and helped defeat ISIS. And he actually worked alongside the United States to defeat ISIS, and the United States murdered him. And what did they do a year ago after they murdered him, they assassinated him? Donald Trump deployed fake intelligence, falsely claiming that Qasem Soleimani was on his way to kill Americans and attack American embassies. In fact, he had been lured to Iraq with the false promise by the U.S. of negotiations, and he was on his way to a peace conference, brokered by the Iraqi government. So Donald Trump went out and lied to the American public to assassinate the second most important public figure in Iran. This kind of lie is the kind of lie, these are the kind of lies that WikiLeaks and Julian Assange had been exposing for about a decade. And this is why Julian Assange is in jail. Julian Assange is in jail because of these words that he said, that if wars can be started with lies, wars can be stopped with the truth. And Julian Assange, with his model of publishing, with the courage of WikiLeaks, they brought us the truth that exposed the lies, not just behind the conventional wars that we've seen, but the hybrid wars, the vicious sanctions that are starving to death tens of thousands of Venezuelans and Iranians and Cubans, and are now targeting independent sovereign countries like Nicaragua, where WikiLeaks through the State Department cables showed how the U.S. was paying opposition parties to try to destroy the Sandinistas. We've learned so much from WikiLeaks, and it's for that reason that Julian Assange is in jail. And he's in jail to make an example of him. He's in jail the same way that Joan of Arc was burned at the cross, to make an example so the rest of us don't go and do what he does. And because he's there, and I can tell you I was in touch with him for several weeks, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, over Signal, about what was taking place. And he, at certain points, was hopeful that he would be taken out of the embassy in London. I remember one message he sent to some of his supporters, and it was a rainbow emoji. He was hopeful, and then his hopes were crushed by the British security state acting as the cat's paw of the CIA. But he had this hope, and when his hope was crushed, I thought the best thing I can do is just redouble our efforts at the Gray Zone to continue the work that he's doing and that WikiLeaks is doing. And all of you independent journalists are continuing that work today. You should give yourselves a hand. I know Julian would be so proud of you if he could see what you're doing, and I know he knows this is happening because I've been in touch with his legal team. He's following all of this closely, even though he's kept in a maximum security prison, unable to have human contact with his partner, contact with his children in the middle of a pandemic with COVID spreading in that prison. He's being tortured, and the people who tortured Khalid al-Masri, who was kidnapped by the CIA in a case of false identity, and whose torture was exposed by WikiLeaks, they're still out there. They're still free. They're still walking down these streets as free people. That is the ultimate crime. So Julian Assange was in December 2017 in a series of meetings, and I wrote about this at the Gray Zone. I hope all of you get a chance to read the story that I published called The American Friends, based on leaked documents from a court case in Madrid where the CIA contractor that surveilled Julian Assange is on trial. Julian Assange had a series of meetings with his legal team, the Ecuadorian Senayan Security Services, to talk about coming out of the embassy legally under international law. He was going to be given diplomatic immunity. A third-party country was going to make Julian Assange a diplomat. But the CIA was spying on these meetings, and I've proven that it was the CIA that was spying on these meetings, the US government, spying on his legal team, violating attorney-client privilege, and they issued the secret indictment of Julian Assange in Washington when everyone was denying there was an indictment, because they knew he was trying to come out of the embassy. At this time, they were tailing his partner, Stella Morris. They were trying to steal his child's diaper out of the dumpster to try to prove that it was his DNA. They were plotting to assassinate him with poison. They were plotting to kidnap him. This was all revealed in the Spanish trial. And ultimately, the plan to give Julian Assange diplomatic immunity under the international law was shattered by the CIA. But this has significant implications for the trial at the Old Bailey in London, because Now that we know through this Spanish case for the CIA contractor, David Morales, and UC Global, which Mike Pompeo was using to spy on Julian Assange, now that we know that the CIA was spying on him and his lawyers, now that we know that the CIA was plotting to assassinate him, that this idea was pitched by David Morales to kill him, now that we know that, there is absolutely no way he can be extradited here and to expect anything even pretending to be a free or fair trial. There is absolutely no way legally that he can be extradited to this country, which has already tortured him for years, which is controlling his prosecution in London, which is compelling the British state, which is America's poodle, to torture him in this maximum security prison. There is no way he can be extradited. So that's the message I want to send, is even if it's morally obscene to torture, jail, and prosecute a journalist for the crime of journalism in a country where he isn't even a citizen, it is a complete violation of international law and even our Constitution to bring him here and put him on trial. So when I see Julian Assange next here, he's going to be a free person. And it's going to be thanks to the work that you all have been doing. You don't have any big backers, you don't have any supporters, you're just doing this out of your own conviction, and you should give yourselves a hand, and we just have to keep continuing the work that Julian Assange started, regardless of what happens. So thank you for being here. All of you are so inspiring to me.
Thank you, Max!
Woo! Thank you, Mad Max!
Thank you.
Peace.
What is your name? Fiorella.
Cool. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Open mic, is there anybody that would like to come up?
Oh, hey.
Thank you so much for
Okay, so I want to give a big shout out to all the different independent media outlets. We have Status Quo hanging out with us today. We got Fort Fisher, Jackson Hinkle, we got the Convo Couch, Niko House was here, MCSC Network, we have Lee Camp, we have the Canary, we have Rupley, and so many others. I apologize if I did not say your name. Slow News Day with Steve. This how change happens. This may be an assembly of about 50 people, but between all of our channels, between all of this coverage, there are thousands of people that we have educated on multiple different aspects of Julian's case today. All I ask is that everyone here today, all of the viewers online, we don't forget this, because it's not over. Tonight at about 5 a.m. Eastern Time is when Vanessa Baratzer will be reading her decision. There is only one decision, and it is no extradition, because this is not a court case, this is a kidnapping. Julian Assange is not a terrorist, he is not a criminal, he is a journalist. And if he is allowed to be prosecuted, we are all next. The viewers, the speakers, the people in this audience, because fascists will not allow truth to be proliferated amongst the public. This is our time to run, to pick up this banner before someone as maniacal as Joe Biden potentially takes office. We've had Obama's administration prosecute more whistleblowers than anyone else previously in history combined. And Donald Trump broke that fucking record. Donald Trump is prosecuting a journalist. It is his administration, at the advice of Rick Grinnell, that is bringing forth these charges that will end our public right to know. They hide it behind the veil of a right-wing leader because they are the ones who people think will defend free speech. We cannot allow their propaganda to allow this to happen. We were here as Action for Assange during Donald Trump's Stop the Steal in the middle of December. We were the ones that were chanting at his events. We were the ones that forced his pastor, I think it's like Mark Burns, to say they will pardon Julian. And it is the deep state that forced him an hour later to retract that message. Our voices have power. Use it. Use your voice. Use your feet. Use your blood, sweat, and tears. Because the more we are willing to suffer for this now, the less we will suffer when they come for us. Thank you.
John. I can go tomorrow. I can go tomorrow unless you want to.
Andrew, I can say.
You want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Hey guys, we love your work. Hey, we love your work, by the way. It's a pleasure.
Hi, my name is Morgan Archukina, and I am a journalist with Sputnik News Agency, and I've been covering the Julian Assange's case for a long time, as well as many of the other heinous crimes and assumptions of U.S. imperialism. And I want to talk for a moment about how Assange's case really represents the attitude of the U.S. government that it runs the world. Beginning with the presumption that somebody who's not a U.S. citizen could be subjected to a U.S. law. Assange is being tried under the Espionage Act. And the Espionage Act is one of those laws that the U.S. presumes to be a global law, that it presumes that this law has any effect anywhere around the world. And this is the same presumption that the U.S. applies when it assassinated Qasem Soleimani, when it carries out drone strikes where they hit weddings in Somalia, where everyone is judged if you are killed. U.S. Africa Command doesn't even register, they don't even look at whether you're a civilian or not. If you're killed, you're judged to be a terrorist. And it's this same right that it's not just Donald Trump. It's been claimed since Obama and since Bush and earlier that the U.S. has the right to assassinate, to jail, to kidnap anybody who undermines the U.S. empire anywhere, or even is just on the wrong side of what U.S. interests happen to be. Now, it happens to be that Assange is someone who has exceptionally embarrassed and humiliated and undermined the U.S. empire in major ways simply by telling us the things that we have a right to know, and which is why it's such a extreme overreach, and it's kind of like Max said, it's a little bit revenge, right? Is that this is revenge in the same way that assassinating Soleimani was revenge for helping to rally the Middle East around to defeat a U.S. Proxy force that was going to give the U.S. even help it to retain control over the Middle East by keeping it in chaos even longer. So this is one reason why I'm out here among many to support Assange and to oppose the extradition is because if the U.S. has the right to prosecute somebody from another country and extradite them back to the U.S., then for something like this, then what don't they have the right to do? Where does U.S. overreach stop? It has to stop here. It has to stop with Assange. It has to stop with one of the most valuable journalists of our era. And that's why we have to be out here to demand that the extradition stop and that Assange be freed, and eventually one day see to it that this terroristic U.S. empire is brought down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here.
We'll get it to somebody. Where's Steve? Where's...
I'm sorry.
Okay. You're going to speak, right?
I can when
You want to...
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
How do you spell your name again? Just kidding. Let's give it up. I did Parapals coming to speak, guys. Come on, you can do it, guys.
Yeah.
Am I holding it right? You can hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Very appropriate to be here on the British flag because my friend George Galloway, he always makes this joke. I don't know if he came up with it, but he always says, the sun never set on the British Empire because God would never trust it in the dark. And we all know since World War II, the United States has essentially inherited that legacy. It acted as the global police. It made sure that the sun never set on its borders with its array of military bases and occupation posts set around the world. And Julian Assange is in prison. He's facing extradition to the United States because he posed an actual threat to that empire. And I'm not only talking about in terms of the crimes he exposed through the Iraq war logs or the Afghan war logs. We've all seen the videos of U.S. soldiers gunning down Reuters journalists in Iraq. We've seen that brutal front of the U.S. empire which Julian exposed. But sometimes I think
Her
we
name is
forget about
Anya
the real revolutionary force
is a journalist for the
proved to play in the world. Through the State Department leaks, some of us might remember, they actually inspired an outright revolution in the country of Tunisia. I remember at the time following news of the uprising in Tunisia after a young fruit vendor, Mohamed Bouazizi, self-immolated in the street. And the people in Tunisia rose up and overthrew their longtime leader, Ben Ali. And it was right after WikiLeaks had exposed through the State Department cables the depth of corruption of the Ben Ali state. Of course, Tunisians knew all of this to be true, but WikiLeaks had put it on the record and confirmed what so many people had known throughout his rule. And if you look at mainstream media coverage of that revolution, I think it's The Guardian that says this is the first WikiLeaks revolution. We're not just talking about exposing crimes here, we're talking about Assange moving masses of people to change the course of history. That is a threat to the empire. That is the most dangerous act that any journalist can take. And when all this was going on is when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And so I came to journalism because I saw through what WikiLeaks had done that this is where I could put my energy to feel like I actually have an impact on the world. That's the power of journalism. And so I can't think of anyone else who inspired me more to do what I do than Julian Assange. But all of us here, I know, standing here, can say something similar. He is an example for all of us, and we will all be next if this is allowed to go through. So I will be up tonight to witness this history. I mean, and as Andrew said, the only declaration that can come down is no, we hope. But regardless of the outcome, I know that we're going to continue the struggle, and that I'll see you guys at the Justice Department tomorrow, and that we shouldn't forget the impact that the work Assange did can have, and as Max said, just hold us as example. So thank you all for doing that by being out here today, and viva la revolution, and viva Assange.
Yeah. Got it. There you go.
Andrew's like MC. It's so fun. Right?
Yeah.
I try. It keeps me from
There goes Big.
You really are.
It's a little selfish.
Good job, buddy.
Hey guys, once again, thank you all for being here. These are the true journalists right here. The people who have been covering Julian Assange, the people that aren't afraid to lose a corporate establishment job just by saying his name. The people that aren't afraid to push the envelope to be true journalists, to actually be what the fourth estate was supposed to be. What we have lost. We are living in a fascism that is cryptic. People thought that voting Trump out was enough. You can't vote your way out of this. You can't rebrand socialism as an imperialist, pro-regime change brand like AOC has managed to do. We can't allow that to happen because co-option is a part of the system. It's how the establishment continues, sheep herding people back into a party that has shown them time and time again that they don't care. So why is this
this relevant to Julian Assange? Well, because the progressive movement has largely ignored him. As someone that supported Sanders, I can tell you the vast majority of his supporters did not hold him accountable when he was not speaking on him, on Julian Assange, when he refused to stand up for him. The vast majority of his supporters didn't see the importance of supporting a journalist who did nothing wrong but tell us the truth and expose not only U.S. war crimes, as we have heard, but Western imperialism. A topic that most of the DSA progressives that aren't serious about actually pushing beyond Western socialism don't really talk about. What is the imperialism actually? What is that? We have been bullies all over the world, and nothing shows you more than what we're doing to Julian Assange in this kangaroo trial, which is not even remotely human, to say the very least. And so what we have to do, if you are somebody that really cares about force the vote, if you are somebody that cares about Medicare for all, about any issue, immigration, any issue, all of those issues are tied to free speech, because if we don't have the ability to have a YouTube channel like The Gray Zone, like MCSC Network, like Convo Couch, like Jackson Hinkle, all these voices, if we don't have the ability to stream, we won't have the ability to inform others on what's actually happening. We don't have the ability to provide real journalism to counter the lies of the establishment corporate media. And that is important. That's why we're out here fighting for those people who mock this as a right-wing talking point, who mock the deep state, who pretend that the deep state isn't real and hasn't been real for decades. They literally say, oh, you're a right-wing, you're a right-wing Nazi for talking about the deep state. A lot of the left has fallen into that trap. And I have to talk about that because as a leftist, we need to be more loud about Julian Assange. The fact that more Republicans and libertarians in our Congress are fighting for free speech and standing up against censorship, is a shame. We also need to go beyond classifying people as a right-winger for simply having a different point of view. This is an issue that is beyond party lines, post-party lines. I can be a leftist and I can talk to somebody that doesn't consider themselves one and say, you know what, free speech, it impacts all of us. We are all getting screwed by the system. And we have hit a pivotal time right now in history where more of us are realizing that, and that is thanks to every single person who has been loud, who has gone to a protest where there's been 5 people, and has stayed there, who comes to a protest now where it's raining, who drives across the country. Your efforts are not in vain. Not at all. And so we need to be louder for Julian. We need to be out there tonight, tomorrow. The fight doesn't end. And I want to thank every single one of you who has put up with a bunch of crap from people who don't think this is an important issue. And to those people who say, well, this is just one man, it's just one issue, free speech, we need to protect some violent speech, etc. This is much bigger than one man. If he falls, I fall, you fall, many fall. That is the importance of this trial, the exposure of imperialism, the exposure of corruption, and that's why we're all here, so thank you very much, and fight on, free Julian Assange.
Andrew. Oh.
Right here. Do you want to help pass out buttons and whistles?
Yes.
There's 2 boxes.
Got it.
Cool. So,
Okay.
Great job. That was awesome. Yeah. Are you guys going to be going to like
So
the,
we have
by the way,
we have one more
Medhurst.
speaker before we wrap up. Nick, do you want to come?
Are you guys going to be going to the visual thing, the Assange thing tonight or whatever? I think they're doing like a stream or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me know.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everyone who planned this, everyone who's here. Fiorella's right. We represent so many. There may be 50 of us here, but we represent so many people out there who are not able to attend. We made it out here in the middle of a pandemic. We're here to show solidarity because we know where this is heading. We know that we have to take a stand now. We know that the Democrats have actually been worse on press freedoms than the Republicans. And so many people have said so much today that Max Blumenthal, so many others, that there's hardly anything left that I could say about that, who knows so much more about the topic. But I want to say that the People's Party stands strongly in solidarity with freedom for Assange.
Thanks, sir. For sure.
So, we're going to wrap up for today. It's raining. A lot of us have been at 2 events, if not more today. Tonight at midnight, we have a permit to do this exact same thing in this exact same place. If you can make it, please join me. I want to piss these people off more than you can imagine. So we're going to be here at midnight to wake them up. The significance is they have to wake Julian up at 5 o'clock in the morning. The UK is 5 hours ahead of us. So we come at midnight to wake them up at the exact same time that they are waking Julian up, to strip search him, to put him in a glass coffin inside of a vehicle, drive him over an hour to the Old Bailey, to be removed, strip search, handcuffed, and transported into a glass cage in the back of the prison. If you're as outraged as I am, please consider joining me tonight to wake these guys up at the same time that they wake up Assange. Tomorrow at noon, we will be outside the Department of Justice. Rain or shine, snow, tornadoes, fuck them. So please join us, whether the ruling's extradition, no extradition, or some other crazy thing that the judge comes up with. Tonight at about 4 a.m. on our Action for Assange channel, we're going to be kicking off live coverage.
That's this morning.
This morning.
I promise.
This morning. Just so everyone knows, journalists are not allowed to actually broadcast this trial. So we invented a creative method back in September where we're going to be going through all the live tweets from all of the journalists that have access to the court's live feed, so we can build people the most accurate, full and detailed picture of the courtroom, short of being there watching it yourself. So that's going to start tonight at 4 in the morning, and I just hope everybody goes home, be safe, and turns out tonight and tomorrow to free this man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for coming out, everybody. You guys make my heart nice and warm and big and stuff. This is great.
How do I spell it?
F as in Frank.